Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another brand new special edition of Shank and Spenso as we witness some great NFC AFC Championship weekend action. And now we're getting to the big granddaddy of them all, Super Bowl 50. You know, you can't get any better than this. Peyton Manning possibly going into his last game as an NFL quarterback in the NFL ranks. Then he got the high-flying Cam Newton flying like a crazy dog out in the crazy everywhere. He's flying all over the place.
Yeah.
I love his play. I'm so excited for all these Pro Bowlers to go out action and be able to play against one another, and it's gonna be one hell of a battle. What's your first initial reaction, Spence?
My first initial reaction is it is exciting to see Peyton Manning on this stage with his career because he's a guy that has really been the face of the NFL for the last 10 years. In the last 15 years, and the opportunity for him to go out on top is such a cool feeling. You saw it with previous Hall of Famers, Jerome Bettis and Michael Strahan, and to see guys go out on top, it validates their Hall of Fame career. It makes you feel great. And for Peyton Manning, he's trying to do what John Elway did. He's trying to go out, late in his career and win a title. And Tom Brady has 4 titles, and Peyton Manning, he's done everything, Shanko. Regular season quarterback, he's the best. The stats prove it, the records, the home field advantages, but in the playoffs, he struggled to close, whether it was versus New Orleans, the disaster versus Seattle, the Denver game where Joe Flacco threw it 80 yards, and the Baltimore Ravens won. Pittsburgh Steelers even beat Peyton Manning, the Jets. There are a lot of shortcomings in the playoffs for the Indianapolis Colts with Manning. So this is a really cool opportunity. Great storyline. You have a young up-and-coming star in Cam Newton versus the sheriff, Peyton Manning.
Absolutely, and I think that Peyton Manning is going to be looked at as one of the greatest players of all time to ever do it. I know he's going through a lot of controversy right now with his HGH scandal of people trying to call him out for being different and trying to advance from his multiple spinal surgeries with his neck. He had problems with his shoulder as well, going down through his back, and it's really hard to come back from as an injury. But to address your point, yeah, he probably did struggle in the playoffs at times. He didn't, make the right throws at the right time with Tracy Porter and the debacle in Super Bowl 48 up in at MetLife Stadium, but he didn't have the help for the Indianapolis Colts for the longest time. Remember, the Indianapolis Colts had a middle of the pack defense. Definitely, when you go up against guys like Tom Brady, did not really help out for him. Especially, you had guys who were really good on the defensive end, like Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney and those boys. But other than that, no one really has a really Pro Bowl caliber type of guy in the defense or in the corners or safeties really stop Peyton Manning, really stop in his tracks. But there are times where Peyton Manning did not get the help that he did deserve, and it's really a shame that if he ever got the help that he would have deserved, we could have been talking about Peyton Manning going for his maybe 4th Super Bowl right now. This is his 4th Super Bowl. He's 1-2 in Super Bowls right now, and I think he's definitely done everything to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Love his actions on and off the field. Does great for the community. He does everything to help out the people in need, but I'm looking forward to Peyton Manning. I really want to hope that Peyton Manning does get this ring because I think because Eli will be tied with him with Super Bowl rings, and then Eli is going to be very motivated to get that 3rd ring to be able to beat Peyton Manning. So
you know what, that was Eli's only calling card, was that he has 2 rings and Peyton only has 1, because even in all the battles, Peyton Manning's always the big brother. He's always handling Eli in regular season battles, Shanko. Remember the Colts played the Giants on prime time Sunday Night Football.
I was there. Great game.
You were there, right? Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne. And to address your point on Peyton Manning and those teams, Joseph Adai, not a top-tier running back. Edgerrin James was a stud, though. What a fun offense that was. Stokely, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, and Dallas Clark. That just kind of brings you back into time.
Yeah.
growing up in the early 2000s when he would go off, and play Brett Favre and play Breeze and play these different rivalry games. But Peyton Manning in the playoffs, he had the one dud in Foxborough. It seems like he's had multiple duds, like in Foxborough, doesn't it? Don't you remember that 4-interception game where like Ty Law and Rodney Harrison were just destroying Peyton Manning? And
2003 AFC Championship game, yep. Absolutely.
The thing about him is Peyton Manning, he's going to take up a lot of cap. A lot of practices are going to revolve around Peyton Manning in the offense. And that's just kind of the nature of the position. It's kind of the nature of Peyton Manning teams.
Yeah.
And I'd say he's done okay in the playoffs, but he put so much pressure on himself. I wouldn't call him a tremendous playoff quarterback.
Absolutely not. I mean, look at his playoff record. He's lost more than he's actually won. And he's only had guys to help him out, like not really some good guys like you said before. I mean, like pretty middle of the pack guys like Joseph Adai was average at times. But just imagine if the Colts would have kept a guy like Marshall Faulk, how much of the load would have Peyton Manning would be a lot more lighter on his load to be able to carry his team to an NFL Super Bowl championship. But it's just one of those things where he never got the help he deserved, and he'll always be judged for if he won or lost those games. And a lot of the people ins and outs don't know about the whole thing. But to switch the gears now, I mean, look at the Carolina Panthers. They're coming in high and flying. They're 17-1. They look absolutely unstoppable. Cam Newton's just playing lights out football. He's just having fun. He's just throwing. He's dabbing. He's doing everything he needs to do to dissect defenses all around. He tortured Cardinals defense last week, who was ranked 5th in total defense last week. Oh my God, what a really turn of events that game was.
It was a complete rout.
Took them out in the first half. Basically, had no chance to win the whole game. It really hurt that the Cardinals did not have the Honey Badger helping them out in the cornerback position, be able to stop guys like Cam Newton. But the guys, they were getting beat up front easily. Calais Campbell and guys who are just – they're not – Patrick Peterson was getting beat off the ball. Cotchery beat him consecutively all day.
How about Corey freaking Brown, an 80-yard touchdown? And that's why, Shanko, I was arguing Cam Newton deserves the MVP because he's made these no-name wide receivers. If you put Corey Brown, Ted Ginn, and Jericho Cotchery on like the Bengals or any team really in the NFL, maybe San Diego, if you put these guys on most rosters, they're not going to produce. They might even find the practice squad. They might even be out of the league. And Cam Newton, when Kelvin Benjamin went down, you thought this Panthers passing attack and this offense isn't going to be that dynamic, right?
Yeah, and he's
completely wrong, and that's a testament to how special Cam is physically. Because, Shanko, I want you to compare Cam Newton to the other dominant quarterbacks of this era, Peyton and Tom Brady, and what physically sets him apart, Cam.
It was funny. You're just reading my mind. I was just getting right back to it. I think Cam Newton easily compares to guys like Tom Brady because easily, he carries a charismatic swagger that he has. He basically is a better – I mean, he's got a dual threat factor for him, the Cam factor with you can run, you can pass. Tom Brady can only, he's not very a mobile quarterback, but he's very accurate at times, especially over his voluptuous 17-year career that he's been having. But I think that Cam Newton is really, as he's progressing in his years, his young years, he didn't really do that well in his first couple years, just like Tom Brady did. But then when Tom Brady got his chances, then Cam Newton really had the opportunity to really flow into an NFL quarterback that he is. And I love the way Cam plays, like I said before. And I think he is the next Tom Brady. He makes guys around him better, like you said. Makes guys like Brown catching balls, Cotchery and Ted Ginn Jr. guys who can really beat these defenses with like a flip of a switch. And I think he's the next Tom Brady. Could win those next couple Super Bowls in years to come.
Shanko, when I look at Cam Newton, his leadership skills he definitely loves having control of the entire team and the entire roster. And the guy's 6'6". So Shanko, when a quarterback dives into the end zone, like when they fly into the end zone and get hit by defenders, they're supposed to get wounded or a little bit banged up. Cam Newton just doesn't, get wounded. He's smart with his body. It's not like he does that all the time either. But the guy is physically, he weighs more than like most defensive players on the other side of the field, and we just haven't seen that. And the thing about Cam is he's 6'6", and if you watch his release point, it's actually pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to most guys. It's not up here like Peyton Manning. It's low, but he just guns the ball. He got a cannon for an arm. He could change the field with how far and accurate he could throw the football. And the guy now he's put in the work. And there's a couple things about Cam that I want to talk about because I think the evolution of Newton is interesting. He had that one rookie year. He was on top of the world. You remember Cam Newton was such a his rookie season, breaking all these records for rookies. Then he had a sophomore slump. And Steve Smith was on the Panthers, and Steve Smith is a guy that is one of the more respected NFL wide receivers in the NFL. And they kind of batted heads because Steve Smith, he expected to be the leader in the locker room because he's been there, he's done that, he's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And Cam Newton's personality is very outgoing personality. It didn't sit well with Steve Smith because Steve Smith wanted Cam Newton to probably take his time, go through a couple more training camps before assuming the leadership role. And now that Cam's been in the system for a while, the players around him really trust him. And you could tell that they're just a lot more cohesive than when they were with Steve Smith, if that makes sense,
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, especially I can make the comparison as to the Oklahoma City Thunder where Durant usually started out and then Russell Westbrook and Serge Ibaka started to come in. They really had to take a backstage pass saying, who's going to be able to understand and take the reins as the head guy on your team. And that's how it feels like the really same comparison as to Carolina with Cam Newton, and basically what happened was, he had to understand the value that Steve Smith brought to the team and his experience. It's really understand to know guys who's been in the league for a long time, and you have to learn from these guys. And I think Cam, they just butted heads. They never really got off the ball the way they would have, and I wish Steve Smith was in his spot because, he's a hard worker. I love him. I'm not saying Cam Newton's not a hard worker. I just love Steve Smith as a player, and I feel bad he might not get a Super Bowl when it's all said and done for his career.
I know. He totally deserves one, too. And he's just a guy who wears his emotion on his sleeve, and that's why you love Steve Smith. Little guy, feisty, and pound for pound, he's a really special player. But I look at Carolina, too, and defensively, Shanko, Kuechly, they were building this defense even last year. Thomas Davis, Roman Harper, Ron Rivera had a vision for this defensive team. And it all started there. Remember last year, Shanko, they made it to the playoffs. They won a very weak NFC South. And then they were able to beat Carolina in the opening weekend. And that win last year helped them, but they were building that defense. And this year it all came to fruition. Their cornerbacks, they're all really built for free agency, like Cortland Finnegan and Harper and Thomas Davis. These guys are a lot of free agents that are just balling. And Sean McDermott and this staff's just done a tremendous job. And it's also interesting to note, Cam Newton, and this is kind of a serious note, Shanko, he actually got into a car accident earlier this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you heard about that on ESPN. Mm-hmm. And that could certainly have a toll on just the way that the season's gone on, too. The players just really rallied around Cam, and thankfully he was okay. And, it's just been a magical year.
Really has been a magical year. And I'm looking forward to what's next for this team going forward. We got
I think this team's here to stay.
We got a week and a half left, and we got to roll with it. As we like to do, we break down the next game. But it's the thing, man. What's the big key factor to this game, man? Who's going to win and why? Right. Basically, it comes down to.
You know what, Shanko, too. I'm going to dive into this in 10 seconds, but after the Super Bowl's over, it's the most depressing feeling because you have to wait 8 months before football comes back and build up the
football draft coming up. So the NFL draft, got to look forward to looking at players.
That's good for like one night, It's good.
Look at Mel Kiper and guys like Todd McShay. They do it for months and years. Look at them. They do it all the time.
I
Can't
know.
go one night. Gotta love what
Tired after mock draft 4. Anyway, Shanko, I believe that Carolina is going to make quick work of Denver. And, as a football fan, as a neutral fan, you kind of want to see the elder statesman, a guy in his last game ever, Peyton Manning. The one hole on his resume is the rings that are not on his fingers. As we mentioned before, he only has one ring, and I think it's going to remain that way because I think Carolina's defense is they're better than New England and Pittsburgh. We can agree with that, right? Mm-hmm. And Peyton Manning did virtually nothing in the second half against New England, and against Pittsburgh, he had very minimal success. Denver's defense needed to play perfectly, and I think that Cam Newton is a different animal in terms of running the football, 6'6", can flip the field. He is the most confident player in the NFL. I think that Carolina wins this one going away. They jump out early like they do. And in the first quarter, everyone's going to be holding on for dear life as the Panther train gets a big, I'm thinking a 17-0 first quarter lead. Denver never recovers. Carolina 38, Denver 14. 2013 all over again. And Cam Newton officially is the face of NFL football.
I'm glad you didn't take my easily pick like you would pick, but I think that it's going to be one of those games where I would love. This is such a great game to break down. They got all these great Pro Bowlers playing in one game: Peyton Manning, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, Jr. I could go on. CJ Anderson having a Pro Bowl type career or type year. He's been having a 1,000-yard season this year.
How about Talib in that defense is good.
Talib, those guys, Chris Harris Jr., those guys are balling out like crazy. And I think the key for the factor is that, I think I'm picking the Broncos right now, and this is why. I think the Broncos need to obviously got to shut down that Carolina. They got to stop Cam Newton in his tracks. They got to take Peyton has to take that exact game plan that he took when he played Tom Brady. For that team to be able to what's that defensive coordinator for Wade Phillips? Wade Phillips needs to dial up another great performance because he obviously deserves the MVP of that last game for stopping Tom Brady, getting to him about 20 times last week.
Tremendous.
He was rattled. You gotta get to Cam. You gotta contain him. You can't let him, get flush out of the pocket. He can't.
You gotta get 3 guys on Cam.
You need to stop him. You need to get in his tracks. You gotta penetrate those trenches. You can't have him go. You can't have him work with open space. He's gonna slice and dice all day long. And Peyton Manning, obviously, he's got a big tall task against Josh Norman. But I definitely would love to target Josh Norman because. Looking what Odell Beckham did, he easily targeted him in the second half of that Carolina Giants game, Week 15, and he basically took Josh Norman out of the game. Odell Beckham had like 100-plus yards receiving in that game. So guys like Demaryius Thomas, and they just need to step up and be able to, just get into these guys' heads, and you got to be able to, play big when the times matter most. And Peyton Manning needs to, he needs to be careful. Obviously, take care of the footballs. Number one priority for him, and I think that it's going to be a great game, and it's going to come right down to the last drive. Peyton Manning, it's going to be that great sayonara. It's going to be a close game because I don't think the Broncos are going to blow this team out, but I do see your pick with Carolina can easily blow them out, but I think for the last hurrah for Peyton Manning to ride off into the sunset, Peyton Manning is going to drive him all the way down for a field goal to win the game, for a McManus field goal, and right off into the sunset. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be a 23-20 victory.
Here's Archie Manning comes down, lifts his son into the air. Peyton Manning, 2 world championships. He then announces his retirement tour, and he takes his whole family to Disney World as he wins on a storybook ending. Because let's face it, Shanko, we're not Carolina Panthers or Denver fans, but Cam Newton's going to be back, and he's going to win, and he's going to win very big. And this is Peyton's last time. That's what it comes down to me is I loved your story better. close game and Peyton Manning in his last game ever winning. Unfortunately, I don't see it because, Carolina's defense can be had, like you mentioned, with Josh Norman and Odell Beckham, and the Giants put up points in the second half. Drew Brees did the same thing. If you saw Carolina-Seattle, it was a shootout. And then how about Russell Wilson? He had Carolina's defense at his mercy in the second half of that game. So Carolina can be thrown on. But unfortunately, I just think Peyton Manning's arm strength is so weak now that he's going to be turning the ball over. I think that Cam Newton presents a different threat against the Denver defense because he can extend plays. So if Denver's going to rush even Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, I think that Jonathan Stewart and Cam Newton are going to be able to run out of things. And it's just inevitable that you're going to give up a long pass play to Cam Newton. And for Denver, the key is not turning it over. It's staying close. It's playing a real boring game of football.
I agree.
Denver's been on the verge of tipping over because their offense is so inept because of Peyton Manning not being able to stretch the field. And I don't see Denver's running game and their offense holding the ball long enough. I just see eventually Cam's going to break that barrier, and Denver's offensive woes are going to come back to hurt them in this particular game. Now, if Denver was playing Arizona, a Carson Palmer, a guy who stands in the pocket like a statue, then I think Denver would have a very good chance.
I think guys like K'Wan Short and Jared Allen are going to be absolutely X factors on that defensive line because they're going to be definitely going to be in those trenches all day long. I know Jared Allen's not going to be 100% with his foot. I know K'Wan Short's been playing out of his mind this year. He's definitely been playing out of the. I love his game. Definitely penetrates real good in the defensive trenches. You got guys like Thomas Davis. He has like an injury right now, and he's going out strong. And even though he's injured, he's still playing no matter what. I love his toughness, his energy. Luke Kuechly. It's tough to pick against this Panthers defense, but I gotta roll with my boy Peyton, man. I gotta go with the Manning pride as we.
I feel like you're picking with your heart here, Shane.
I gotta pick with my heart. I love picking with my heart.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I'll
ride and die.
I really hope you're right. Your Super Bowl, your story directing. That's like a Hollywood story you just directed with your.
It really is, man. It's a Hollywood ending for all involved, and being able to watch.
Cam Newton's going to be back. It's hard to feel bad for him. He's only 24 years old. Pending any injuries, and we wish him best of luck his whole career. He should be back on the stage many, many times.
Absolutely, and watching John Elway, as you said earlier, winning it in his last game, it's kind of fitting that he's the head football of operations. Coaching Peyton Manning, basically. Watching him being able to go out for the first at the next time. From watching one Hall of Fame quarterback to another Hall of Fame quarterback.
Thank you. I think it's funny. Archie Manning, they should just buy a house every year at the Super Bowl, man.
we all can't win the lottery like some people do in California where they won the Powerball, but
but Archie Manning, he literally owns every Super Bowl week, like I'd say in the last 12 years he's been there 6 times. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And I like your pick and I like my pick, and we're going to stick with that. And that's all we have to
leave your comments. You think it's a Shanko storybook ending? You think the Denver Broncos can magically pull it out? Or do you think Carolina will rout them like I expect? And awesome. I mean, I want to hear what people think about just the end of the football season. I mean, it's a sad time for us, as football season's going to be over, but we're still going to be posting Shanko and Spence. Don't worry.
We'll always be innovating new ideas. I'm an entrepreneur myself.
NBA, movies, whatever.
We'll do everything we need to do to keep the show rolling for you guys out there. And I appreciate the hangouts. And you know what? If you guys look at your herd, like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear what you guys want to hear, and we love you guys out there. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right, take care.